Shop. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Judy. How are you? I'm having problems with my camera today. It's been changing colours all the time. I think, there we go. We've gone white now. The paper's the right colour. So there's a lot to draw today. But hopefully the painting will be better than the drawing in that sense. I couldn't work out what that word says, so I think it might say creation in the shadow, but I don't know. Really, I'm just guessing. I don't know if I've got Paul online today. I know you don't always answer. I know you can't type. Hello, Heather. Oh, expedition. I hadn't thought about looking at the digital version. So if I go to the original saved one, because the shadow's so strong on it. No, I haven't got a clue. You can just make it up. Stevie's not very well, and Marie's doing a grandchildren trip thing. But I thought this was just an interesting composition today without it being just a boring stack of books. Something quite dramatic. Well, we're trying to work out what with some of them are. I mean, we've got Lewis Carroll, I could definitely see, and then there's something by Michael Joseph, and I'm sure I had a book by Michael Joseph that looked like that. So we've got Macmillan Publishing is the red one, Riley Classics. Don't know what that one is, but it could mean, it could say Bronte, maybe, perhaps. Keep him busy for a while.
My son's doing his family history, and he's found not somebody related to me, somebody related to him. He went to Indonesia with their wife, who was expecting a child, and there's no marriage record for them at all in the whole of the UK. And they both say it's from the UK. She was called something else in the UK. She wasn't called that surname. I said, and he said, "Oh, I've just discovered she gave birth like 6 months later." I said, "Got a ring off the market and just said they were married." Some bloke down the pub walk gave them a ring and just said, "Oh, it's our word against yours."
Well, it happened back in the days before the internet, didn't it?
It's just funny.
Because you literally could, before people checked who you were or anything, you could say you were anything.
But do you know what? That's what these people did, and actually you can't, because the internet has come back to prove them wrong.
Well, that's true, but they're long gone, so it doesn't really matter to them, I guess.
See newspapers printed in 19 whatever from Indonesia, which wasn't called that then, and you can see exactly what these people are up to. In fact, many court reports are still available online. Fascinating. It's more interesting than my own. As I say, I spent a long time doing my own. I have my granddad was illegitimate, and I don't really know anything about
Okay, Judy, thank you.
Yeah, my granddad was legitimate, so I don't know if that was his proper name or not.
No, well, my granddad didn't have his proper name. I actually found it because I knew his date of birth and I knew he'd been born in London somewhere. So I just searched it by his first names and the birth date without a surname. Just left the surname blank. It came up with 2 results, and one of them had the right middle initial. So I just ordered that one and it was right. And she just lied about being married, so she'd given him a different surname at birth. She was never married to his dad, but she'd given him the dad's surname. But the dad, I can't find anything out about. So obviously from your birth certificate, you don't get to find out your date of birth or how old you are or where you're from or anything like that. You don't have a clue.
And they weren't told, were they?
And I'm guessing Irish, because I've got a
All my
surprisingly
Irish lot
Irish
lied
name,
through their
just looking at
teeth.
no Irish roots, I tell you.
My Irish lot, they came over during the potato famine, and their ages changed,
Yeah,
where they were born
exactly.
changed.
Exactly.
Every census gives different answers.
Am I more Irish than you? And you have known Irish ancestry.
Oh, on my DNA, yes,
Yeah.
I've got very little Irish DNA showing up because of it's done with how many
Yeah.
people have taken it in that area rather
Yeah,
than
But I've got a significant. I'm nearly as Irish as I am English.
yeah.
And I'm not as English as
But
you
I
think.
definitely know we've got Irish ancestry because it was my great grandfather was Irish, so I know I've got it.
Well, I think my great grandfather might have been Irish.
Well, yes, but
I
you've
know
got
I
traveller
have.
community in yours, haven't you?
I mean,
So that makes a difference.
I know, I'm late. I'm sorry.
so I thought I would be half English, half Scottish, basically, but actually I'm 70% Scottish, and only about 12% English.
Because it does work on Ancestry, it does work on the amount of people that have taken it, doesn't it? It doesn't actually tell you where your DNA is. So if suddenly I had 1,000 relatives from Ireland do the DNA test that match, then my DNA percentages
It depends
would
what you inherit as well. It depends how much you inherit.
change, because that's how it plots your family's journey, doesn't it? I do want to try that other site that you can download your ancestry onto another site and it tells you more things. Oh, I found it really fascinating, the DNA side of it.
Yeah. Mine came back about 70% Scottish, and it identified 2 main areas of Scotland that I had DNA in common with, and both of them are right. I know they're right. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, it's got to be accurate because my family that have matched up with it with closed trees, it's linked me straight to them and told me what
Yeah.
percentage we must be, what relatives we must be, and they're
Yeah.
accurate. So
Yeah,
it
mine
is right. So I can't see why it would be right for some and wrong for
I
others.
haven't found any surprise siblings yet, but I have found surprise cousins, or second cousins.
Gone into it that deeply.
Oh, it was really good.
Yeah.
I did the DNA. I did it in between lockdowns, didn't I? And it took a month for me to get my results. And then once you log into your ancestry thing, you're just thrown up with all these relatives. And now it's got it so it can show you if they're related to you on your paternal side or your maternal side. So you can see where they come from. Because there's one girl, or young woman, who I'm related to as like 4th cousin. And it turned out I went to school with her dad. But I'm not. I don't think I'm related to her dad. I must be related to her mom.
Yeah.
And we couldn't work out. But now it's done the upgrade. It's showing that it's on the maternal side, which I thought it might have been. But no, I find it absolutely fascinating.
If you want to do it, get them at October, because they always do it like cheaper in the run up
The
to
cheaper
Christmas.
ones, absolutely, because it's
Yeah.
expensive, but it's really well worth it. And then it shows you where you're mainly from. Like for me, obviously, I'm highly centred in the West Midlands. Who'd have thought that? And it
Never
turns out my
left.
family have never left. But yeah, it's interesting. So 86% English, 5% Swedish, 4% Welsh, 3% Irish, and 2% Germanic Europe. But also, what's fun about it is it tells you your ethnicity inheritance, but also certain things on, are you sensitive to lactose or something, and it will say from what we think possibly not. It's quite fascinating. Or will you have easy sleeping, or are you light sensitive? You know, all of this kind of stuff that they try and get. I find it fascinating.
And you have to pay to find out your DNA.
Yeah, you buy the DNA kit.
Usually about £50 in the run up to Christmas.
Yeah, it's about 50 quid.
It's like
75
70, 80
normally, and then I mean, I was already on Ancestry anyway, but I don't pay anymore because I can't afford it. But once it comes back and you log in and you put all your details in, then it just starts listing. I mean, I've got here, it's shown me my nephew showed up, which is good. But only as a half nephew, which made me know who my father was, which was the family legend. And then his niece's daughter showed up as a cousin, so clearly I'm related to her. And then my other cousin, my first cousin, showed up on my mum's side, and now it's thrown up 3 other second cousins who I haven't got a clue who they are. It's amazing.
Should try it, so it's
Yeah,
not
you
hard.
should. It's
You
brilliant.
You just stick in a little tube and send it in the post. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and then a month later it comes back.
I love that program. Who did it to you?
Jackie watches it all the time.
Yes, I watch it whenever I can. Yes. Fascinating.
And obviously, the more people that do the DNA from around the world, the more it gives you interesting results. So the DNA heritage stuff often is mainly about where more people have also done the DNA tests, you know. So, so I've got quite a few American relatives that moved over.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
See, my nana's dad went to Canada and left the 3 children with his brother because his wife died.
Right.
So Nanny was brought up by her uncles, and I don't think she ever saw her dad.
No, quite a few people. Richard Madeley wrote a book. Oh gosh, I saw him at the Hay Festival being interviewed by Raj Persaud. Would have been about 2009, 2010, and he wrote a book about one of his relatives that emigrated to Canada, and you know, all of the hardships and everything that they faced just by upping sticks and going. Because that happened a lot, didn't it? You either went to emigrate to Canada or Australia. And I think I've got relatives in Canada that my dad used to say about, and you know, I used to think, oh, whatever, Dad. But now DNA is showing that I have got relatives in Canada, so he was right.
Well, it was called Belle. I don't know his first name, but I do know her maiden name is Belle. So when I did go to Canada, it was sort of like going up the Hudson River, was it?
Right, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking, there he is. Did he
Yeah,
have the family?
yeah.
You know,
I know, it is fascinating. I think it's really interesting, all of this stuff. But my brother and sister were never really interested in it until losing both of my parents, and now it's made them start wanting to know more. But you know, there's only me that knows it now.
it's funny, isn't it? Because you think one day your parents do die, or your grandparents, you wish you'd have asked them.
Yeah, because there's loads of things. Thankfully, my mum wrote everything down, and then I used that as a base. Because nobody else was interested in family history, and I was bequeathed the family history bits, like my great grandmother's wedding ring, which actually is just a piece of copper pipe. It's just a copper band. You'd think it was from B&Q if you didn't know anything else about it, because they had no money. So that's all that they had. So I'm going to have to label all of this stuff, because when my nephews, nieces, great nephews, nieces search through my stuff, because I ain't got any kids that I know of, unless they come up on Ancestry DNA. But I'll have to label it all, because they might just dump it all, and that would be so sad.
Absolutely. We had a busy
Yeah, chaotic week really. I was teaching Sunday, and then Monday 2 classes. I put my back out Monday morning. It's not too bad now. I just trapped a nerve, so that's easing. Got a sty on my eye, which is slowly going.
Getting Monday.
Well, it's probably, but also it was slightly sore, and I thought I'll just stick some Sudocrem on it, and that's made it 4 times worse because I just stick Sudocrem or Germolene on anything. Basically, that's my answer. And so I've done it to myself. Really, I've inflamed my eye even more. So I was teaching Monday night, didn't get home till 10:30. I was teaching Tuesday night, and then I got a gig straight after work yesterday at a retirement complex at 6 o'clock, and I didn't get home till nearly 8:30 last night. So, and then 2 classes today, a class tomorrow. I'm here Saturday. Sunday I'm singing at the food fair and a gig at a care home, and then Monday, Tuesday afternoon and evening classes, and then next Sunday I'm not off either. I'm at Metheringham RAF performing up in Lincolnshire, so I don't think I've got a day off till sometime in September, and then I won't probably have any days off this year because I've got Christmas gigs, Christmas classes, evening classes. I don't want to work hard, but I ain't got any money, so you either have to do one or the other, don't you? And it's not like I don't live within my means, because I don't have any means. But I also, the only perk I have is a mobile phone. I don't have Sky Television, you know. I don't. I know. I've just got Freeview TV, and the internet. That's basically it. So I don't drink a lot, I don't smoke, I don't have any vices like that. So my mobile phone is very expensive, but I use it like a computer, and I use it for every aspect of my business, so I need it, really. But my income's the same, but the outgoings have gone up by at least 4 times, so it's frustrating. Are we nearly drawn? The drawing is important. I'll give it to about 20 past. I've tried to do it with a limited palette today, and I like the dark background. I think that makes it interesting, doesn't it? Because I saw loads of different still lives of books, but they're all quite boring. Or an open book, which is also boring, and I thought, well, this one's a bit dramatic in a way, and it's not a full book, and it's interesting, don't you think? Do you like this one, Dee?
I do. I'm drawing round things.
Yes. And I like the shadows, because obviously it's not a straight stack, is it? So some of the books are casting shadows on each other, which I thought was interesting. Well, I'm going to do it Payne's Grey. I'm going to do it the colour that it is, yeah. But it has to be quite dark. You could, if you wanted to do it softer, you could do an ultramarine burnt sienna mix to make a blue-grey. Yeah, to make a bluey grey. That would work. But my set at the food fair is going to conflict with the women's football match finals, so that'll be quite quiet.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is.
I love watching the women's football.
Yeah.
Because they play so well. And you don't see the stupidness that you get with boys.
Any brown would work. I can hear everything.
I know, you see, I wear
I have teacher ears, though, you see. People think they can whisper in my classes, and I know exactly what's being said. But my mum, as she got older and she was going a bit deaf, she used to think she was whispering. But actually, she was louder than if she'd talk. She'd go, "I don't like her at," and I go, "Mum, what? I'm whispering." "No, you're actually shouting, but in a strained way." That's the yeah, yeah. So she'd have been better off just talking to me in a low voice instead of trying to whisper.
Patients, his mother, was slowly going quite loopy, and she'd got a nasty infected hand. She'd got a thorn in it and really blown up. And he took her into A&E, and she's sitting there saying, "I don't want any of those N-words." And he's going,
Well, that's it. You lose the filter, don't you?
"The filter had gone completely." And, you know, but then equally, Ellie was saying when she was having Albie, she was on gas and air, and apparently that has the same effect.
Mm.
And they were prepping her for the surgery and putting a cannula in, and they made an absolute hash of it, and she was covered in blood. And when the doctor finally managed to get it in, she said, "Oh, I'll be doing your section." And then he said, "I hope you're better at that than you are at cannulas."
I broke my arm last year and I had to have gas nailed while the doctors pulled one
Yes.
end and pulled the other end. And as I was taking the gas nail, I happened to say to him, "I hope I don't say anything silly." And I did, because I was saying, "Oh, I love them for doing this to my arm."
Well, that's nice, though, isn't it?
Yes, but it could have been anything.
It could have been anything because you're totally inhibited, aren't you? It's a bit like
I was so grateful that it was
if you've had a few drinks. It's the same kind of thing. I mean, obviously I've selected a few colours today, but you could choose whatever colours you like, really. I'm actually thinking for some of these, I might, you know, like on the blue and the dark red where you've got gold writing,
yes.
you could either put that in first and paint around it, or do a gel pen on top, or gouache with it on top. I think I might mix a colour with white gouache and paint it on top. Yeah.
What
White
does it
gouache.
say on that red book?
We can't work it out. I've written creation. Jackie thinks it might say expedition. But I've even looked on the digital version. The shadow is so dark,
Yes.
it's impossible to see.
That's Macmillan.
Oh, on the bottom. Oh, on that side is Macmillan. I thought you meant on this spine here.
No.
Macmillan. Yes, it's Macmillan and Riley Classics.
Yeah.
Macmillan.
I don't know what to do. I haven't got any gouache. Oh,
I can give you
I've got some white.
white. That's it. Yeah. So you can mix that with paint at the end. Yeah, yeah. Yes, you've got some. So that's fine. So we'll do that at the end. Otherwise, it'll be a bit faffy. So I'm gonna do. We'll paint the shadows last as well. So basically, I'm just gonna do a little wash of cadmium yellow over that top book. Oh, actually, that's a bit strong. I need to dirty that up. So I'll add a little bit of red to it, I think. Because it'll look too clean, and I don't want it to look clean. So we'll glaze. We'll do some nice shadow glazes. It's the only yellow book on here, isn't it? Yeah.
It is quite bright, isn't it?
It is. Well, the light side is actually quite bright. I suppose you could use a little bit of yellow ochre if you wanted to dull it just a fraction. Yeah. Because we'll ignore shadows until the end. So I've been sewing on my RAF uniform that I thought was old, that actually isn't old. My buttons, I've changed the buttons to King George's buttons, because this is what you don't realise, you know, each monarch has a different crown. Like the male king has a different crown to the female king, so all the buttons are different.
Oh, yeah.
So I've had to change my buttons. I've found a 1940s RAF modern replica emblem of the wings to sew on, and then I've just had my cap badge, my George cap badge, that I need to change, because you can't be going, I can't be singing at a 1940s event wearing a Queen Elizabeth, no, because they'd really tell me off. Because there's silver silver metal coloured buttons now under Queen Elizabeth, but they were brass under George.
In the army dress uniforms, they're good.
Are they?
In the dress uniforms are incredibly expensive.
I know. Well, I was looking because I got this whole RAF outfit for 75 quid from an antique centre, and I looking at the medal ribbons, which I've now had to take off and keep because they're modern.
Yeah.
I worked. That's how I had to age I aged it from the ribbons.
Yeah.
So it was all like 1960 to 2000.
But you couldn't wear fake metal ribbons.
No.
That'd be
Yeah.
that'd be
Some do if they're reenacting certain characters. Because
Yes.
I'm on a stage with Churchill, King George, Princess Elizabeth to become Queen Elizabeth, you know, and Montgomery, and you know, all of them. So those that do wear, but then at reenactors, they like having the medal ribbons on and stuff, so you can talk about the different campaigns and things. So it's slightly different
yeah.
in reenacting rather than just walking down the street in a uniform. But obviously now I've got 1940s buttons. It's obvious that it's not
Yeah.
modern. So yeah, I aged the uniform by looking at the medal ribbons, and then found out the tunic doesn't change, and I think it's that the uniforms are flight lieutenant. Is it lieutenant here or lieutenant? Lieutenant. Flight lieutenant with the two bands, and those didn't change for 100 years, so that's accurate. But then I found the buttons were wrong, the cap badge was wrong. I found a black and white photo of a flight lieutenant in the RAF in photograph. So I just looked at what costume he had, and then started going on eBay. I think the buttons cost me £6 for a whole set of original buttons, but the cap badge is replica, which is fine, because if I was new in the 1940s, I wouldn't have an old out. You know what I mean? But my outfit cost me £80 plus the £75 plus the accessories, but a vintage one would cost me about £1,000, and I haven't really got that. So that's the King George badge, but they're all padded, you see.
Yeah.
So I've got to sew that onto me cap. Take the modern one off, but I'm keeping them all. Yeah. So it's
They're expensive badges. Oh, they really are. But they're really. Garth have got his senior colours when he was at school.
yeah.
For swimming, and that allowed him to have a new badge on his blazer. £70 it was for this looking badge because it had silver. Yeah. Thread.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Mind you, I think that cap badge only cost, how much was that? I think it was only £13, that reenactor's badge. But the real RAF ones, genuine ones, the modern ones, are only like £5 for cap badges. It's weird. Right, now this one's the trickiest, because I think it is actually quite ochre-y, isn't it, that one?
Yeah.
I'm going to mix, actually, if I go with ochre and a little bit of Payne's Grey to knock the ochre off, or a bit of ultramarine if you wanted to, so it goes more of a browny ochre. And I'm just going to cover that. Oh, that's not a bad colour, actually. Maybe I want a bit more ochre in there. I've switched to my smaller brush and I instantly regret it because it's going to take me forever. So we're just in the blocking in stage. It'll be the brushes the shadow that makes a big difference on this one. And the background. Because don't forget, it'll dry 30% lighter.
This will dye just
Dye lighter. Actually, that colour for the spine, you could actually use for some of the pages in the other books. Because they're all old biscuity coloured paper. I can almost smell these books, you know. They do, don't they? I prefer them to modern smelling books and magazines. I don't like the smell of those. So I'm really hoping it doesn't rain on Sunday. Because I'd love to have one outdoor gig this year where it isn't raining. And next Sunday I don't want rain either, because I think that's outside at the RAF place.
It's a washout, isn't it, this year?
Oh, awful. Although, it flagged up on my laptop and me and Jackie had to look it up. The temperature at 22 degrees, it had an arrow and then a red cap on it, and it said near hottest temperature. And I said, surely it's been hotter than this in August, but apparently the hottest August temperature was 25 degrees in 1995. So we're quite close to that. I always imagine August as really, really hot.
Yes.
But maybe I'm just imagining it because it was the school holidays, and you always imagine, you know, when you look back fondly. Like I look back on my Welsh holidays fondly, but actually it nearly rained every single time.
Yeah.
But we still did stuff.
I have no memories of sunny holidays as a child.
No.
Absolutely none.
I do remember one holiday when my sister came with her boyfriend, and he got in Wales, and he got really sunburnt on the beach. His legs were like salmon pink. I can remember him radiating from the armchair.
That's horrible.
I might flirt with these books, so I'm not going too close to them. So the book that has Bell on it, that one, Bell, I think it says, in between the two red books, that I'm going to mix between cerulean and ultramarine. And water. Although that's got an aged look, so I might put a little bit of ochre in that as well. But not too much because it'll go green. But tonight, I have actually got tonight and tomorrow night where I'm not, I think. I panic when I'm not working because I worry that I should be. And what have I missed? But it's not paint and Prosecco night, so that's okay. So I've sewn my buttons on, but I'm going to get Jackie to look at them again when she comes round for lunch on Monday after art class. And then I've sewn my buttons on, I've sewn my RAF wings on. I got my shoes. You see, I got RAF black dress shoes, £10 off eBay.
And they'll keep you going happily.
Absolutely, for gigs, because I'm always a bit funny about wearing uniform because I'm not a reenactor, and I know a lot of female vintage singers and other male vintage singers are always in uniform at these events, and it's lovely. I always feel, because I haven't served, I always feel a bit dubious,
Yeah.
but I have to look on it as reenacting and educating, you know, because I'm educating with the songs I sing, you know, because it's of the period, so it does make sense, really. I have to just get over myself, as they say. So that's both blues with a little bit of yellow
Was
ochre.
that ultramarine?
Ultramarine cerulean and a little bit of yellow ochre. Because it's a funny colour, that. Because the other one I'd say is almost neat and ultramarine, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then I think that there, I'll go with neat ultramarine for that other book. Because the tatty bits we can lift out, you know.
That's really quite a dark ultramarine.
It is. Do you know what? I think it might be ultramarine with a hint of Payne's grey.
Yeah, because ultramarine's a bit bright.
Yeah, it needs to dull down a fraction. Or cadmium red, but I think Payne's grey may be suitable.
And that's the second ultramarine.
And you can't see the pages in this one, but I will have to lift out sections for the edges and the corners and the more tatty bits. Yeah, next week we're really low on the ground with classes because of holidays, because it's coming up to the bank holiday weekend as well.
Oh, yeah.
I love old books. I mean, all of these would have had dust jackets on originally, I would say.
Yeah.
Which one for the big one? For that one I've just done. I've done ultramarine with a little bit of Payne's grey, just to darken it. But I will lift out along the edge of the top and spine where it goes a little bit tatty. Because we've got shadows and stuff to put on, but oh, the next one I want to tackle is that really weird book. 1, 2, 3. The fourth one. Yeah, it's like a greeny grey, isn't it? Almost teal, but dirty teal.
Oh, I wonder if I could use my
Your sea colour.
yeah.
You might need a bit more ochre in it, maybe. And maybe some Payne's grey, or I don't know. I'm so glad Jackie's still here because she's had people in the shop consistently. I wouldn't have been up here.
Isn't that good?
I think she went to go. I had it this morning. Because the pastel class starts at 10 o'clock, but I'd got two chaps in from 9:30, browsing for over half an hour, and I couldn't get back up to get ready for the class or anything, so it gets a bit stressy.
I can't do it in a bit straight.
Yeah. So cerulean blue and a lot of yellow ochre and water should give us that dirty green. Oh yes, look at that, perfect colour. Cerulean blue and a lot of yellow ochre. We've almost got 4 different shades of red as well, haven't we? For these books. It makes a change doing a still life, other than doing trees all the time, even though I do love trees. This morning's social media reel I was talking about the best palettes for watercolours. And we were looking at the difference between plastic palettes and ceramic palettes, and it's so different. The plastic palettes just split the paints. I don't know why they make them for watercolours, because they don't work with watercolours. Enamel works really well, painted enamel, yeah, and
Works a treat.
and ceramic works really well. I've got one at home, but I treated myself because we've got quite a few in stock. When I'm doing bigger washes, this is a lovely ceramic.
I bought one from you and dropped it in the
Oh,
Is that so?
that's ceramic. I can't remember. Oh, I've got the box. I've got the box here. It does come. Oh, £12.39, and it does come with a lid just to protect it. It's not a tight fitting lid, but it just protects it a little bit. But it's nice and deep if you wanted to do washes. But the plastic ones are just,
They're very annoying.
they are annoying.
They're all just
I did see something that you can use some sort of like paint it with acrylic medium, the plastic palette, to make the watercolours go. But I think if you're spending £10 on a bottle of acrylic medium for a cheap plastic palette, you might as well get a proper ceramic palette, or use a dinner plate, or like we have in here, bathroom tiles. Yeah. They are lovely, that, because that's deep enough to do washes. Because I've known some artists, if they only use a few colours, they use wine glasses and dilute the paint in the wine glasses in each one. Because there's a British artist who does almost vintage style, and he only uses yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, ultramarine and cadmium red. So he has a wine glass of each colour, and he'll glaze, let it dry, glaze with a different colour, so he colour mixes on the paper.
clever.
But I mean, that just means he's got the dilute, inky consistency straight away,
Yeah.
which works really well. Thank you.
I'm going to phone now.
Thank
Getting
you, bye.
more customers.
Thank you, bye. Run away.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
See you.
So, I think this one, cadmium red, and I might put a tiny bit of ultramarine in there.
Which one's that?
The Macmillan, all that's all. Although there's a bit of crimson in there, and I feel bad because I said don't use crimson. You could use crimson if you wanted to, with a bit of cad red. If you wanted to change the colours slightly. You know we're not prescriptive, and to be honest, because we're not having to match trees and things, and it is just a book spine of a book we don't know of what. Don't really matter today. You could have a kaleidoscope of books.
I wonder whether there was ever a convention
I think there was.
that, adventure books were.
Yes, I think there was, because you had it in glassware, didn't you? Like for chemists and stuff, certain chemicals were in certain coloured jars, and I've got a funny feeling that might have been the case way back.
Yeah.
Although that said, I've got some really old books, like Victorian storybooks, that are in dark blue, burgundy,
Yeah.
and biscuit coloured. I've got one called Aunt Dorothy's Tea Table, and that's in a very dark ochre-y brown colour. So maybe there wasn't a convention, but I think there should have been. It would have been so much. Because then, like, I've got encyclopedias that are dark red, like
Yeah.
series of encyclopedias, like 10, 12 volumes. But then that Lewis Carroll book is the same colour, so no.
My Encyclopedia Britannica was a brown.
Are they?
Yeah. Do they just never looked at them?
No.
Well, do you know, we had a big room, we didn't have a lot of books in our house. I don't know why, actually. But we had, on our room divider, we had, like, encyclopedias, probably stuff from the Reader's Digest or, that kind of thing. And that was what I used. They were already from the 70s when I was using them in the 80s, so technically the information was out of date for a lot of things. But that was how I got my homework answers, right the way through the 80s and 90s. I've still got those books, and I don't look at them now because it is so much more convenient to stick it in your phone and ask the phone, or ask your device, your Siri or Alexa or whatever, whatever questions you need to know. I might add a little bit of ochre in. For this one. A bit of ochre works lovely. And it's slightly more bleached, so a little bit more water.
Browner.
Yeah. And I think the other one is even more so. But I think last week we were talking about memento mori, were we?
Yeah.
And it is really quite fascinating, because when I was looking up book still life, nearly all of them had either a skull by it, or a candle, or things like a candle has only a limited amount of time, doesn't it?
Yes.
And then the skull, obviously. So it's quite fascinating, the link between books and still lives, and like the Pronk still Leven, and which we did, Christine, didn't we, in the Dutch Masters of the Golden Age? We were looking all about memento mori and vanitas. We cover some seriously interesting stuff in our art history.
The other one's the same colour.
Same colour. I've added a little bit more ochre and water, but not much. And the bottom one, I think I'm going to do Crimson Payne's Grey, because that one's quite punchy. It'll all hinge on the shadows, I'm sure. Yeah. Not much Payne's Grey, but it just dirties it up a little, you know. I honestly think the most challenging part for today is going to be the background.
Yeah, getting it dark enough.
Because, and smooth enough, because it's one massive section, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's drying very quickly.
It is. I mean, I've got the aircon on, so usually that, you know, stops having the really dry air. But, yeah, it's crazy today. Oh, it's now 24 degrees, so it's gone up several degrees in the last couple of hours, so it's getting warmer. I always find this stage of a watercolour painting is the worst.
It is. Very quickly.
And because it doesn't look like anything
It
yet,
doesn't look nice.
and it looks like some sort of amateur
Yes.
beginnery type of don't know what I'm doing, but I'm proud of what I've done kind of thing, which is absolutely fine if you're that stage, but after 25 years of teaching it, I shouldn't be at that stage. But because it's a layering thing, I know it will work better than this. I know it will.
Is it crimson?
A bit of Payne's Grey, just a little bit, and you can lift out some of the denty corners if you wanted to, just a clean damp brush. I'm wondering when we get to doing the blocking in, which I think will be the next step above the shadows and stuff, it might be worth dampening around the edge of the books first, so the colour can
Get in.
get in, and you know, if we mix a lot of it up. It's 5 to tea, so I know. But we've got all of the books painted in blocks, haven't we? So it is just the fiddly bits, the shadows and the titles and the everything.
Not a lot.
Not a lot, it's fine. We've got an hour. Well, we'll have less than an hour when I come back. Dee, what do you want to drink?
Do you know, I think I'll have a hot chocolate.
A hot chocolate. Christine, the usual. Heather? Hot chocolate.
Yes, please have.
I could see your longing face. And I thought, that looks like a hot chocolate yearning for me. There's a certain look. See, our paints are quite nice because they're granular.
Yeah.
So that gives it an extra
An extra-
ancient look. Although yours is granulating more than mine, but I think I've used less colour, I'm more water. I've got a bit pale.
When you drew yesterday. Sue was Mary, Robert and Nick. also I think a lot of people who move out of London to Banbury are deceived by the, it'll only take you an hour to get into London.
Yeah, and the rest.
Because you've got to get to the station.
You've got to find somewhere to park.
Yeah,
You've got to queue up to get in.
yeah. And then you've got, Marylebone is not the best place in London to get to.
No.
Because we were looking, before I booked the tickets, I should have just booked it, we were looking to get into London about, I don't know, 10:30, go and have breakfast somewhere nice,
Yeah.
and then go to the Royal Academy. And we were saying, well, you know, we'll need at least half an hour to get to the station, and then we're going to need probably 3/4 of an hour to get to the Royal Academy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, what is promoted as being a 1 hour journey is 2 hours.
Yeah, because you know, it is by the time you leave home, and he lives in Shillington,
Yeah.
so that's, you know, that's a little driving, isn't it? And
Well, yeah.
getting to the station isn't easy.
You're getting, you know, you're coming in from Shennington, so like you're coming in on the Warwick Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you've got to get through all the traffic lights, through the Bridge Street lights, then get to the station. It's going to be half an hour.
You know, sometimes if you
It's hard.
coming down from Overflow,
Yeah.
just going through Grimsby to get to the station. Well, I was supposed to do that the other week. I was going to Oxford, and we left half an hour to go from
Yeah.
Overflow to Oxford. I mean, it should only take 5 minutes.
Yes.
We were still in it. I said to Pete, turn around. Well, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in the car.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
And you can't. You just can't.
You just don't know what's going to happen with traffic because those lights going through Grimsby are ridiculous.
Oh, they're just
I
stupid.
don't know why they've got them because they all sets of light before you get to the station.
No pedestrian. No pedestrian.
No, one's just before Tesco Express. That's the first lot of lights. Then you've got new roundabout, and invariably they're queuing from there.
Yeah.
To go up to
Would it not be quicker to? No, probably not. As I was going to say, to come along Penrith Way
Yes. Well, sometimes I have done that.
and then
because-
down. Is it Concord Avenue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to do that than go through Grimsby.
Yeah.
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 Going to Woodstock, I timed it. It was 30 minutes to home. So, if we do move there, I'm still coming to the art.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I didn't want to move far away.
No. Because you've got your life.
I've got friends here in life, you know, I like into art.
Yeah.
I do.
Absolutely right.
Half an hour is nothing, is it?
Well, it don't half an hour to get even anything. You know the truth. I mean, I'm sure I've told you this, but I used to work in Clapton. And when I first started working, it would take me quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, door to door. So that's me leaving the house, getting the car, getting to Clapton, parking, getting to the thing. I used to leave at 8:10 and I'd be there at 8, ready to start treating them. And then I had to keep moving it back and back and back and back, and in the end I was having to leave before 8:45.
Your bit of road coming
Oh.
out, that's a nightmare, isn't it?
It's just horrific. I mean, you know, once I'd hit the motorway,
It's going to get worse because there's more housing going on.
absolutely. I mean,
anything goes wrong,
Oh,
we can see from where we live the queues on the
yes.
motorway. No point even going to Oxford today or going up the
Yeah.
motorway anyway because it's all
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the ambulances always used to use the back road from Banbury through Devonton
yeah.
to get from Banbury to the Oxford hospitals.
Pete had a funny deal. We're probably going over a year now. Over a year. And as always, it's a night.
Of course it is.
So I phoned up and said it's like, would be 11:30. Yeah, we go, oh right, okay, well they'd send an ambulance out.
Yeah.
Yeah, paramedics. But they won't be with you until about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I said, where have you come from? And they said, Coventry.
You can't blame them.
Coventry, oh yeah.
You absolutely can't blame them. You know,
I remember when it said that they were going to close the water, you know, to get the meeting in the church. And it was just makes sense.
there's no sense. Absolutely not. I can understand it at the meetings, you know, thank you very much. Heavens for looking several times. Twice for left maternity and then to be an A&E. How's that going?
Thank you. Thanks.
I got the monkey's man.
For goodness sake.
Sales.
Yes. Definitely in the lottery.
Just so that
Hello, Paul, how are you? Yes.
where car park 1 is, it's the opposite side to the main road.
Yes.
They've done all that,
Oh, do you?
all round the back. They've got new walkways
Oh,
and
Paul,
stuff
this is
like that.
Paul on the phone, and he's thinking, because he can't comment on that, he thinks that yellow book could be a shelf top rather than a book, because it hasn't got any
Oh,
pages down the
yes.
side.
Yes, I see it now. It's got to be a book.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're right, Paul, we agree.
I'm going to make mine
It's
stop.
like a canvas.
Oh, unless it's a sleeve for a book.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think I might have to turn it into a book now, because it's very yellow. But you're right, because it should have pages down that right side.
Unless it's a sleeve.
Unless it's the wrong way round.
Unless it's the wrong way round, which is a bit odd.
No, but you still wouldn't
You
have.
know
No, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't have two sides of a
Yeah.
book. So maybe it is a shelf. Well, thank you for that, Paul. Thanks for ruining our whole afternoon. No. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye. Bye. It is a shelf, isn't it? It makes
No,
sense.
I think it's a cardboard sleeve.
Oh,
You
do
put a
you?
book in.
Oh, like you slide the book in.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense as well. Did you hear that, Paul? Dee thinks it's like a cardboard, well, a book sleeve rather than a shelf, but it's definitely not a book as we know it. There's no jammies up this side. You ate the last one.
I know I did. Ooh, thank you.
Thank you.
Biscuiting, Heather? Oh, you're very good. I love yours.
I've been naughty already.
Have you?
You tell.
Yeah.
I have to say, currently M&S is really good for biscuits.
They
Oh,
are.
yeah.
Like some of them are like 30p a pack.
Ooh,
Mm.
I like the sound of that.
I don't go to M&S very often. Do you see, Judy says it looks like canvas, so it in
Yes, it does.
yeah, so maybe it's a canvas book sleeve.
Yes.
I don't go to M&S. Mainly, I mean, I live that side of town.
Mm.
It's such a pain to get to.
It is a pain to get to. I mean, I don't like.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, it's my closest supermarket,
yeah.
but I don't. It's not like a.
Mine as well.
It's not.
You're closest.
Yes, but I don't use it all the time.
No.
Yeah, it is yours. Mm.
Yeah.
But it's not big enough to be a supermarket. There's a lot, and I know when I was gluten free, they've only got 1 metre of gluten free stuff, and they're all posh gifts you'd get a gluten free relative rather than for yourself for your evening meal kind of thing. Waitrose is way better.
Waitrose is much better than anyone.
I like Waitrose.
Their Waitrose essentials
Mm.
are reasonably priced and they're good.
Their price match with Tesco's.
Yeah.
They are, but what's really interesting, like if you buy meat from Waitrose, like ham or whatever, and then you look at Tesco's, the shelf life on the Tesco's meat is weeks and weeks and weeks, and you think, well, what have they put in that compared to? And I've been buying my Abel and Cole ham, which is Dalesford Farm, British organic, you know, all of this kind of stuff. You don't even get a week for the ham because it's literally it's preserved enough to last a short time. And better, exactly. So that's what I've done is I'm spending more but eating less. Mm.
Yeah.
And it is all British, and it's British farming.
It's all outdoor being as well.
Yeah. I had to switch because it was more convenient financially for my pocket. But like corned beef, like not tinned corned beef because I can understand that, but a packet corned beef, like 3 or 4 weeks, nearly a whole month in the packet, and I was thinking, yeah, it's all the preservatives in it. And I think, you know, there's a reason why it's only 20p, you know, for a pack or something like that.
Or it might just be.
Yeah, that'd be good for the dog.
I must admit, for ages now, I've bought a little gammon joint and cooked it. Anywhere. Just and cook that, and you've got for half the price of the packet for 9 slices.
Yeah,
You've got a little gammon joint,
yeah,
and it's what I call dry ham,
yeah.
because you don't somehow you get some.
It's all wet. I have
Yeah.
to blot it with
Yeah.
kitchen water.
But if you buy your own ham,
I need to try that.
I always buy because I can't stand the thought of pigs being cooped up. They have to be running around.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 1 slice of ham.
Yeah.
A packet of ham. If you see
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this is, I get 3 slices in my posh ham for a £5 nearly, but
You
I
could
can,
buy a gammon
but it
joint.
lasts three days, so I have 1 slice on my sandwich a day. It's thick slice. It's not like wafer thin. It's about 2.5, 3 mil
Yeah,
thick.
not like neck
No, absolutely not. And it's sturdy and it tastes nice. And I'd rather have that because I know it's British farmed, it's sustainable, it's, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, yeah. Because I'm trying to get it all in my veg box because I literally don't have time to go to supermarkets now, and now there's nothing in town. I'd go to Waitrose. Yeah, it's a good supermarket for all sorts of stuff actually.
Except, I would say one thing, from having experience with donuts in Waitrose,
Oh,
they were horrible.
Really?
Yes.
I've never had a donut in Waitrose.
Pillow.
Oh,
Oh. Yeah.
Can I imagine it?
I can, eating your pillow
Oh,
makes you down in the mouth.
like a nice donut.
Yes.
Once
Yeah.
in a while,
If
I
I'm
do.
going to have a donut,
Yeah.
I want a nice one.
Yes,
What do I call those? What do they call them? Those donuts that.
Krispy Kremes.
I've
Oh.
never tried.
Oh, they are nice, but I noticed in Tesco's the cabinet's a lot smaller and it's not near the door anymore, it's further away.
Yeah, well, Drew, my son lives in Australia, and they've got a drive-in one. It's a
A
big
drive-in Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
Oh.
and
Well, just
just
they
Krispy Kreme.
They're like donuts. So if you do go to Tesco's, as you walk in,
Flavour.
swing left and it's right up the corner now by the greeting cards and the sandwiches in Tesco's, and they've got a counter of Krispy Kremes with different colours.
They are an arm and a leg.
They are expensive, but they are a delicacy.
But you see, I like the jam donuts with sugar on the
So
outside
do I.
and jam in the middle.
Yes.
And you play roulette with where the jam's going to come.
Yes, is it going to go all over the floor or all up my face?
Or, yes.
Yes.
And you try and persuade it to keep to the middle.
Yes. Or sometimes, just like in Greg's, you're chasing jam around hoping for some,
Yes.
but there actually isn't, you know. And then you find a tiny little blob at the end. So I'm just going to wet around my books to just prepare the paper for the Payne's Grey. Or if you didn't want it that harsh, ultramarine and burnt sienna. So we don't want it wet in wet, but this just helps the paper have some moisture, hopefully, for the paint to go up against it. We have all sorts of topics of conversation in these classes, don't we? It's like Sesame, you know, Sesame Street, where it says today's been brought to you by the letter X or something, and like the artery. Today's lesson has been brought to you by ham and Krispy Kreme.
I've got a lovely video of Alex talking to George, and for some reason they're talking about fishermen. And, you know, what do fishermen drink? And George goes, water.
Well, that makes
Then
sense.
he thinks for a bit and goes, and mama milk. And now he's going, I don't think they drink mama milk, darling. No. I think that boat sailed for fishermen.
I've got a copy Payne's Grey. I've got black. But what else can I
You could ultramarine, because all Payne's Grey is black and ultramarine. That's how they make it.
That's better, yes.
I'm going.
He's getting a bit excited, isn't he?
Yeah, oh yeah. I've got a big blob here.
You've got to make up. You've got to have plenty
Going
of
in the
stuff.
coffee now.
Yeah, you need to have plenty of it. If I've got some left over, I'll give you $1. Hang on, because I can't get it back in the tube. Well, I've gone this dark because I know it dries 30% lighter.
Are you using a different?
Yeah, I'm really trying to get it on.
It's scary.
It is scary. I mean, the bigger you can do it, the less streaky it'll get, you know? Because I know this isn't going to be the colour that it is. It's bin day today, I've got to remember that. For me, it's green bins for us, which is different for you, which is general waste.
Oh, ours have been, but ours are black ones. Ours are
Yeah, because although I'm a carbuncle where I live. Yeah, look. Is that what you take away?
That is rich. Mine looks very thin.
It's a lovely colour though. Right. It's amazing how it changes everything having such a contrasting background. And I think we might do shadows out of ultramarine and ultramarine and cadmium red, maybe. You do. That is the only problem. palettes, yeah.
It's just worth betting on, isn't it?
Didn't happen this week, and
Not
I
at all.
tried setting it up several times.
And it didn't happen, no.
It didn't happen.
Deeply upsetting.
It was handed on a plate, but did not happen.
That's the darkest thing I've ever done with this.
Oh yes, because you don't normally do dark, do you?
No, not really.
Excellent. It's going to take a while to dry. It is only 20 past, so we're doing all right.
I'm glad I got that new paint spray last week.
Good, good.
You've got yours so black.
I think it helped that I dampened the paper enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Not to dilute the paint necessarily, but to sort of help it move around.
This is where I wish I had a tube.
To get the
Depth.
depth. I do tend to have, because obviously we've got the tubes for when students in some classes, if we're all doing exactly the same thing and they will pay for materials, so I've got a tube of Payne's Grey that I keep aside for blocking. We don't normally need this much colour in one go, do we?
No.
But it's good for emergencies.
This Payne's Grey you've recently done is ever so brown, Barry.
Oh, is it? It shouldn't be, because it's...
Yeah, look.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
It's almost more like a shadow colour.
Yeah, well, we do it with burnt sienna and ultramarine, so maybe it's got slightly more burnt sienna than ultramarine this time. It's tricky getting the measurements because it's all on small quantities, you know. We only do like 6 at a time. I'll have a word with the paint maker and tell her off when she gets here tomorrow. Oh, it's fun. I didn't really want to add to the heat in the room, but I don't want cauliflowers on a big background. One spot that won't dry, but it's amazing how that solid background is actually quite patchy now in places. but there's nothing you can do about it. And you don't know until it dries, you see. That is the problem. See, I might use some of this colour with a thin brush to just sort of put underneath each book,
Yeah.
because the shadows are going to be softer, but they've got a little dark line under them. Well, some of them have actually. Those two don't. That one does. But I need to get enough strength of colour. The same Payne's grey colour and a thin brush. Some of the books have got a very strong shadow underneath. I don't want to do all of them because I think that would be overkill. Yeah. There's not all of them have got it, but those that have, I think it's important to put on. I did hear some positive environmental news, well, slightly positive, that scientists have now discovered that they have overestimated the amount of plastic in our ocean by 30 times.
Oh, good.
So it's not that we haven't got plastic in our ocean, we still have, but there is 30 times less of it.
And like as what they thought.
Yes. So that's good in a way, isn't it? And they've discovered microbes that eat plastic,
Yes.
which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Because I guess in the grand scheme of things, whatever we make is of a natural form in some way, isn't it? You know, because if it's chemicals, the chemicals are natural, but the way they're bonded is slightly different.
Yeah.
But generally, what is it? For every opposite action, there's a positive reaction or something. Yeah.
Reaction.
So maybe for everything we make, there is actually some creature or something out there that is capable of breaking it down. It's just finding it, and in enough quantity, and in the right time frame.
What frightens me is this AI, and it getting into the wrong hands.
Absolutely. I mean, deep fake technology where you can, anybody literally, if you've got the right program, can superimpose somebody's face on top of somebody else's face
Yeah.
and get a computer generated voice. And there's a guy been doing it as Tom Cruise on TikTok for years, and you wouldn't know. I mean, he does it and he shows that it's not him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you only look at part of the video, you would actually think it was him. It is scary. I mean, in some respects it could be used for positive, but then that's the same as the internet and guns and everything, isn't it? You know, everything that we make has a positive spin, but then in the wrong hands, it can be terrible. Especially because, you know, in the last 20, 30 years, we've grown up with so many films about AI and how dangerous potentially it could be. Then we just go ahead and actually try to make life imitate art.
Yeah.
Same as they found a perfectly intact embryo of a dinosaur in resin, and I just think, no, just leave it alone. Jurassic Park should not happen in real life. It was a work of fiction. Don't make it a biography. Yes. It seems like we're not willing to learn from somebody else's mistakes. We're intent on making our own. I think I'm going to put one under that yellow book / shelf / case. I'll read this to you because I found it fascinating. It's not very cheery, but I thought it was fascinating because people that don't think climate change is a thing. This is from, I can't really read it, like the Rodney and Automatia Times from August the 14th, 1912. And it's under the Science, Notes and News. Coal consumption affecting climate, it says. The furnaces of the world are now burning about 2 billion tonnes of coal a year. When this is burned, uniting with oxygen, it adds about 7 billion tonnes of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere yearly. This tends to make the air a more effective blanket for the Earth and to raise its temperature. The effect may be considerable in a few centuries.
That was 1912. We knew then, you see.
Yeah, but it's all about money, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the same as the first electric cars were made in the 1920s. All battery. Yeah, all battery.
The problem is with all the batteries now, what are we going to do with them?
That's what really worries me. What also concerns me about if we all go electric for cars is not only the batteries and the stuff that's in the batteries, where does that go?
Yes.
But financially, all the money, like 80 odd pence per pound of fuel duty, goes to the government. Where are they going to get that money from if no one's buying petrol? What will we be taxed on?
Electricity.
Or air quality? Or, you know, it makes you wonder, in certain countries where the air is so bad, will there be an air tax or something? I don't know, because I mean the amount of money our government gets out of fuel duty is immense.
Where is the money going to through these ULEZ zones? Yeah.
And what's going to be done with it?
£4 a day, isn't it? If you don't
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
Plus the congestion charge. I mean,
But again, though, it's always putting it on the little person, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like with the plastic consumption, every little one, we're made to feel bad. But if they made the companies not make them,
yes.
then we couldn't use them. And it's the same as the car manufacturers. Make it cleaner, make it greener, and then we wouldn't have the issues. Yeah, why not put the onus on the companies rather than us and make me feel guilty for not recycling a tin of beans or whatever, when, you know, it's the same as when they put the plastic bag charges in place. All they did was they wrapped everything else in plastic.
Yeah.
You know, you go down a fruit and veg aisle now and everything's shiny because it's all shrink
That's one
wrapped.
reason I absolutely hate buying veg in Tesco's.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything's plastic. I've got to say, with my veg box, people,
Yeah.
most of it, certain things will come in plastic bags, like if it's a bag of spinach or something that's pre-cooked, peeled, but the majority of it, and even off milk and more, comes in paper bags or, you know, all of that kind of stuff, which is really nice. And I'm thinking if even the National Trust envelopes are biodegradable plastic, and I think clearly it's expensive, but if these little charities and things are doing it because they're passionate about the environment, surely it should be a... The one thing I will say is I really would like biodegradable food caddy bags to last longer than a week,
Yeah.
because by the time you've used it and then you take it out of the one to put it in the other, I'm having to use 2 or 3 bags.
Oh,
I
I've
wrap
nearly
it,
changed
I
mine every
wrap
week.
wet things in newspaper.
Yes,
I buy newspaper for the job.
for the job. Yeah, because I don't have a lot. My food caddy it takes a long time to fill.
Yeah.
so I often won't change it if I don't need to. But then if there's a slightly damp thing gone in, then no,
Mixed it out and
yeah, yeah, not pleasant. Right, I'm going to mix a shadow colour, which is ultramarine and cadmium red, which is a nice bluey purple colour. Or if you're using my set, you can use this, the shadow mix. Now, cad red, a purplish colour. So I'm looking here, and this book that may not be a book, it's got a slightly more diluted shadow on the side. Oh, and there's a bit of shadow down here on that book. I wonder, there must be something that's casting a shadow, because all of these books down here have got shadows down the side. Yes. And that one there, if you look at that one, that there's a shadow that sort of comes down here on that. That's really bizarre. Well, I never. Well, I'll go to the foot of our stairs, as my mother would say. It should go aubergine. You're aiming for an aubergine. Right, so that's a little darker underneath. And there are a few little dints and things on this one. I mean, technically, if you were feeling really up for it, the canvas texture on the books could be a dry brush with the shadow colour, but depends on your energy levels. Because that shadow is really dark, isn't it? But I'm having to wait for each layer to dry. Before I put it on. Because weirdly, each spine is going to have it slightly darker towards the bottom, because it curves, doesn't it? But that in itself is tricky, because you don't want to lift off the colour underneath. So this book has a shadow, and that shadow. This is all the purple colour, but it just, yeah, all the shadows are purple. And actually, if you were going to do a hint of the pages in the book that are casting shadows, that will also be in this colour. I think Payne's Grey might be a bit too harsh. I've got to write the art history lessons for, that's next week, isn't it? Spanish artists. Spanish artists. I think I got Picasso, Goya. Yes, I'm going to do Velázquez, yes. Absolutely. Oh, that's the one I wanted to do. starting to look a bit more 3D, but I'm having to really try and look at where any curvature on spines are, or ridges and things that I've kind of not needed to think about until now. Because you don't think of the spines having a slight curve, but you can really see it in some of them. That book is the blue book, the pale blue book, is very stripy. It's really strong. And I've put washes on some of these, and they're not, as it's drying, I can see that I need to make the shadows even stronger. Oh, that's feeling a bit more interesting now. I need to put some more of that colour back on that book. I tried to dry brush some shadow on, and it didn't look nice. So I put a wash of that colour back on top. It does make a difference with the shadow, doesn't it? Shadows are notoriously tricky, but well worth it if you can do it. dry for a sec. Don't forget your drink. How you doing, Judy and Paul? Probably better than me. This is usually the point. It's 1:45, so we've... blimey. Next week... Ooh, a rowing boat on the lakeside by a tree.
Ooh,
Now, this is nice. It is a challenge.
of course it is.
But I love it. It's good green mixes. But we'll do all of that wet in wet. So the boat, the boat,
Yeah.
the tree in the foreground is the focus. So we'll do it all mergy. We like a mergy.
Mergy.
A mergy picture. Oh, just had the email through of we're singing in the hangar at the RAF
Oh,
place because it's a celebration really because it's been 80 years since it was decommissioned as an RAF base and 30 years since they've had a visitor centre there, and they're officially opening the hangar as well, and the visitor centre. There's all sorts going on there. There's the original wartime gymnasium, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's quite fun. So the acoustics should be quite good in the hangar.
Where's this barrack?
RAF Metheringham in Lincolnshire. Oh, I'm going to do, where there's black writing, that's where I'm going to use Payne's Grey and a brush, and then I'll do some... The trouble is, I'm pinned down in a way, because I can't move my paper around.
yeah.
I would ideally pivot it around so I can write the right way up. But I'll suffer for my art.
Recognise your pain.
Thank you. It's really cool how all of the fonts are so different. For the greeny dirty book, I might use yellow ochre and a little bit of Payne's grey. So it's not quite green, not quite gold, not quite anything, because I think it is embossed gold, but in shadow. And I'll use yellow and white for any gold highlights on that, I think. I might do that with all the gilt ones that are darker with highlights. Yellow ochre with a bit of Payne's grey. Anybody need any white gouache today? Or are you self-contained? You got some, Chris? No. I will go. Do you need any?
No, I've got some, thank you.
It's not like we need a lot. For the dull gold, Payne's grey and yellow ochre, yeah. No, I know, I'm struggling to, and I thought, oh, that'd be really easy just to do this. No. I've just been trying to paint really fine grids on the spines of the book so it feels like it's canvas, cloth, which is tricky and pointless in many reasons, but I'm going to do it. I've started, so I'll finish. It is, it's turned 4 o'clock. Where, how did that happen? I am happy with the little gritty stuff that I've painted, but it is really fiddly. Right, I'm down in tools.
You done, are you?
Well, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Oof. I think it looks like a stack of books. I promise, even though next week's picture looks tricky, the actual execution of it will be better. Because there's not a lot to it, but it's because there's not a lot to it, you have to rely on it looking fairly real, don't you?
Yeah. You can't muck about with it too much.
No. Blobbed some water on this. I've blobbed some water on my black background, so I'm hoping I can just dry it without anything happening. Yeah, well, because this is already dry, the water's just sitting on the top. So if I dry it, it shouldn't look, but if I try to wipe it, then it would lift the colour off. Well, it's kind of worked. It's left a tiny little mark, but do you know what? That's all right. Now if I photograph this, I can ramp up the saturation a little bit so the dark background looks quite dark. Ooh. I've enjoyed this one.
Yes, there's a lot more colouring in it than
Yes.
you might think.
And there's lots of textures. I mean, I've done really runny, in the same colour as the books,
Yes.
really runny crisscrosses going all the way over the spines. So it looks a little bit more like canvas texture,
Yes.
but it's tricky.
I didn't quite know how to cut it.
No, so all I did is really runny version of the book colour, and really quickly gone left, right, up and down, left, right, left, right. Let me, if I hook this off, then now it's dry, I can show you. If you were really fancy and you'd got a gold gel pen, you could use some of the writing in a gold gel pen, but be sparing with it. Let me loosen this so you can see. So it just gives it that texture.
What the books are
Yeah,
doing.
there you go.
Yes. I like that.
That little grid work. It does work. I was panicky to start
You
with.
did it very
Yes.
quickly, did you?
Yeah, really quickly, and it's in the same colour as the. I don't know if the camera can show. Oh, it does show it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fiddly.
Try that another time.
Yeah, it is fiddly.
Oh no.
What's gone?
Tiny little doodah around it somewhere. little
Ah.
You want to see what's on the screen, Heather? Yeah, that's lovely. Move mine out the way. That's lovely, Heather.
Lovely.
Yes.
Yes. Booky.
Yes.
it looks as if it's going to topple over in the
Well, that's
middle.
good, isn't it? Because that happens all the time. I like that. That's really lovely. Yeah.
Ready?
No, that's nice. Who'd have thought half of... It's not even a full book. I mean, I think the books... This is only a third of the book's length.
Well, Lewis Carroll is.
Yes, but I think it might be Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll. So I
Yes.
think the book could be
Oh,
that
yeah.
big, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I just need to.
Or Through the Looking Glass. Well,
Yes.
because like when you think of like the Riley classics, that would be tiny on a book.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I reckon that book would be huge.
Yeah.
So we've just zoomed in. D, gorgeous. That's nice.
Oh, that is lovely.
Oh yeah, I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, that's worked out. I'm going to turn this off now.
It looks very solid and
It does.
steady.
But it's the strong shadows that have really helped. Your shadows, that shadow you've done is even stronger than the one I've got
Yeah.
on mine. Look.
I
Very
had to keep
nice.
going over it and it.
I like the colour coming through the shadow as well.
Yes, but that strength of shadow works.
Yeah.
And I like the drawing of the pencil.
Yeah,
Yes.
really nice.
Thank you.
I'm working a bit slow today.
That's alright. That's nice though. You've got your nice strong shadows on there. So yeah, I think I could do with even darker shadow there.
Yeah. It's really dark.
Let's go dark. Let's do it while I'm here.
Let's go dark.
Well, I've just got to find my brush now.
Yes. More substance. Yes.
Yes.
That's better.
Yes. It's pretty good.
Yeah, much better. But you don't always know while it's wet. You have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Now I'll take a photo of that because I hadn't got strong shadow previously. Yeah, that's better. I'll nip and get you a palette as well. Do you want to take that today?
Yes, please. And also,
I owe you £2.
I gave you 15.
That's right, yes, because they're 13. So I owe you £2. £12.39 with your discount.
I got £10 note to pay for today.
Yeah. That palette's £10.
But I gave you 15 last week, so
Yes.
I give you
Yeah,
9.
that's right. Yeah.
And then this I'll pay on the card.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'll nip and get the spare one, and then we can pop. We'll pop yours on the screen when I come back,
Yeah, okay.
and then I'll nip and get the palette.
I'm finished doing the writing. Don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm going to go slow. God, I'm surprised.
I'll do that. I must anybody. It's so nice to find someone else who has to share beagles, because they are unique little mutts.
They are. And that, I feel as though I've had children all last weekend, with children
Yeah.
the weekend before. You don't feel as though you've and the dog. You've had
I know.
3 weeks, so
Well, we had the dog, then we had children, no, then we went to see children, and then so Alex and the little ones are coming tonight with the dog, and then tomorrow their friend from Oxford is coming,
yeah.
and
And
it's
that's been it.
It's good, isn't it?
you ju-
So
and I really don't want to be waiting tomorrow because I've got all these kids in the house and I want them out.
yes.
Right. You should be able to pay. I thought we can just do that.
I haven't finished, but never mind.
No,
There we go.
Because I
That's
you
done.
don't actually
Rushing.
ever finish it.
Let's see yours on the screen though,
But I
Chris.
haven't finished it, and
It's not finished. It's not finished. But that's lovely.
Oh, but the book there, yeah,
And you've got nice strong shadows.
the black background and shadows,
Yeah.
lovely.
Well, I'd say now as it dries, you want a black line there,
yeah.
just to emphasise the shadow.
Yeah,
And
But
I've gone wrong with some of the writing, but I made a mistake with the colour, and
no,
anyway,
I think that's fine. But I think that's going to look fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, it's not flowers, is it?
Dear.
Right, so thank you very much, everyone. See you next week for the wishy-washy boat on the lake. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you soon. If you're coming to Banbury Food Fair, it's on 10 till 4 in the marketplace. It's the big event, it's the big one, so it might pivot round into Broad Street. I'm in the marketplace, 12:35.
Okay.
So thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Barry, can I give you money?